What you're about to see is the uncensored story of the most significant corporate rivalry of our time – NVIDIA and AMD. Two companies born out of rebellion, fueled by genius, and now battling for control of the 21st century's technological soul. Forget the press releases. We delve into secrets of betrayal spoken in whispers, midnight deals that changed destinies, gambling that nearly destroyed empires, and scandals that are rumored but felt in the real world. Billions earned, careers ruined, technology buried, and dangerous ventures that could either revolutionize our world or lead to the collapse of these empires. In this video, you will learn how the most ruthless battle in technology history between NVIDIA and AMD began, what mistakes almost destroyed entire corporations, why the fight for chips today decides the fate of artificial intelligence and the very future of humanity. If such stories inspire you, put a like, subscribe to the channel, and write which Twig sticks will you choose, NVIDIA or AMD. Now let's go! Picture this: 1993. A small conference room in Silicon Valley. Jensen Huang, an engineer with a background at LSI Logic and a brief internship at AMD, sits across from his former colleagues. The tension is palpable. He has just launched NVIDIA, a company that will be a direct competitor in the industry he started in. In the AMD boardroom, executives are seething. They don't know it yet, but this moment will be the beginning of one of the most ruthless corporate feuds in history. A war that will eventually affect all areas of technology. The first battles were fought on the gaming battlefield, discrete graphics cards for PC enthusiasts. Remember the case of the late 90s, the Pixel Wars? In 1999, the GeForce 256 burst into the industry, promising realism that gamers had only dreamed of. It was bold, aggressive, a statement of intent. Back then, NVIDIA was up against ATI, the predecessor of Radeon, cocky and determined. But it wasn't just about pixels and frame rates. It was about ambition. AMD acquired ATI Technologies in 2006, and it was a $5.4 billion roll of the dice that nearly drove the company into bankruptcy. Inside sources say that then AMD CEO Hector Ruiz knew the price was too high, but feared that NVIDIA would acquire ATI first and strangle AMD's future. It was a desperate preemptive strike that would haunt the company for years to come. There were moments when AMD seemed broken. It started into the abyss, burned with debt, struggling to stay on its feet. The industry watched. Vultures circled around, ready to feast on the carcass. Analysts wrote obituaries. The experts declared the war over, but somehow they rose from the ashes. They were driven by resilience that defies logic, perhaps spurred on by the Sisyphean effort with which they pushed the rock uphill again and again. They restructured the business, bet on new architectures, and made deals that seemed impossible. The outside narrative wasn't just a marketing ploy. It was embedded in the company's DNA, forged in the fires of near extinction. NVIDIA rarely stumbled, but when it did, the consequences were seismic. Remember Bombgate? It involved defective graphic chips in laptops due to bad solder that caused massive device failures from Dell, HP, and Apple around 2008, threatening to tarnish their carefully crafted image of invincibility. It wasn't just a technical glitch, it was a moment of vulnerability, a crack in the armor that AMD and the entire industry watched with bated breath. These weren't just corporate hiccups. These were moments when the company's entire trajectory hung in the balance. The pressure within NVIDIA's walls must have been unbearable, the search for blame relentless. It hit NVIDIA's reputation in the OEM segment hard, but it didn't destroy the company. It survived the crisis by paying compensation. Meanwhile, at NVIDIA HQ, insiders describe Jensen Huang as obsessed with AMD's every move. Engineers recall him walking the hallways late into the night, reviewing competitor analysis, and sometimes going on legendary tirades about AMD's strategies. "They think small," he told his entourage. "We're playing a whole different game." As AMD struggled to survive in the processor market with Intel, Huang was quietly laying the groundwork for something far more ambitious as a visionary and tireless leader, confidently leading the company to new horizons. CUDA became not just a technology, but a platform around which an entire ecosystem grew. NVIDIA positioned itself as an AI computing company, offering not just chips, but the keys to the future. Data centers became the new battleground where the stakes became enormous and AI dominance became a matter of survival. 2015 was a pivotal year. While AMD struggled with disappointing product launches and leadership changes, NVIDIA silently repurposed its graphic technology for an emerging field – artificial intelligence. Few people know that this strategic pivot almost didn't happen. Two high-ranking NVIDIA executives, whose names are still whispered in industry circles, fought Huang's vision, arguing that it would detract from the company's gaming capabilities. Both were fired within months, their departures carefully planned to avoid public controversy. Former AMD executive Raji Kaduri recalled the moment they realized NVIDIA had surpassed them. "We were celebrating winning the PlayStation and Xbox console deals," he once admitted to a colleague, while Jensen was building the foundation for the next technological revolution. By the time AMD realized the AI tsunami was approaching, NVIDIA already had a 3-year head start on a technology that would soon underpin everything from self-driving cars to the most sophisticated weapon systems on the planet. The drama intensified in 2017 when AMD released its Ryzen processors, finally competing with Intel after years in the wilderness. But the celebration was short-lived. While AMD's Lisa Su was seen as a miracle worker who revitalized the company's processor business, NVIDIA's stock price was on the rise amid accelerating developments in artificial intelligence around the world. The future was becoming increasingly clear. Data centers would soon consume more chips than consumers, and NVIDIA was perfectly positioned for this shift. What the public statements didn't talk about was the extraordinary pressure inside AMD. Sources close to the company recount emergency meetings over the weekend where executives realized they were fighting yesterday's war. One of AMD's senior architects reportedly slammed down his laptop and said, "We're building faster horses while Jensen is building a car." The company needed to rebuild urgently or be left behind in the most lucrative tech gold rush of the century. Now that's motivation for a lagging company, isn't it? By the way, in our last video we talked quite a bit about motivation and what's stopping you from earning, and we also put together a step-by-step plan to change your life for the better. Just click on the link at the top right corner of your screen and pick up the valuable information. And we continue the story of the confrontation between the two digital giants. In 2020, the battlefield has changed dramatically. Due to a pandemic, the world went online and demand for computing infrastructure skyrocketed. Behind closed doors, both companies faced unprecedented challenges. Supply chains collapsed, manufacturing capacity became the most valuable commodity in technology, and in this chaos, knives were born. NVIDIA sales representatives allegedly began telling potential customers that AMD couldn't guarantee supply of key AI gas panels, and AMD responded by touting NVIDIA's infamous vendor lockout tactics. The gloves were off, but the real drama unfolded away from prying eyes, in the offices of the world's largest tech companies, where the future of computing was being decided in billion-dollar deals. The year 2022 saw the most audacious move yet. NVIDIA attempted to acquire ARM, a company whose architecture is used in virtually every smartphone on Earth. The $40 billion deal would give them unprecedented control over the entire computing ecosystem. AMD executives were reportedly stunned by the audacity of the move. An emergency task force was assembled at AMD headquarters to lobby global regulators against the merger, quietly collaborating with other tech giants who share their fear of an excessive concentration of power in the hands of NVIDIA. ARM deal eventually fell apart under regulatory pressure, but industry insiders call it Jensen Huang's most telling move, demonstrating how far he's willing to go to dominate not just today's technology, but tomorrow's technology as well. A former NVIDIA board member later admitted, Jensen doesn't want to just win the game, he wants to own the stadium, write the rules, and decide who plays. When artificial intelligence became mainstream thanks to ChatGPT and other generative AI systems, the stakes in this rivalry reached unprecedented heights. Nearly every major AI model today runs predominantly on NVIDIA hardware, creating both huge profits and dangerous dependencies. AMD really didn't immediately bet on AI and data centers, and fell behind. But today, it has platforms like ROCm, an alternative to CUDA, and the Instant MI line for training neural networks. The MI300 chips are a direct challenge to NVIDIA's AI dominance, which Lisa Su privately called the most significant product launch in our company's history. What is rarely discussed is how both companies have had to navigate the treacherous waters of international politics. As tensions between the United States and China escalated, NVIDIA and AMD found themselves unwitting pawns in a geopolitical chess match. Export restrictions threatened billions of dollars in revenue. Secret meetings with government officials became routine. Decisions made in Washington directly impacted development roadmaps in ways executives could never have imagined. Inside AMD, this has sparked a deep ethical debate. One company executive reportedly asked in a private meeting, "Are we creating technology for scientific progress, or are we now defense contractors?" At NVIDIA, the approach was more pragmatic. "If we don't build it, someone else will," was the unofficial response, although the psychological blow to some engineers was significant. The personal dimension of this rivalry cannot be overemphasized. Jensen, Huang, and Lisa Su are not just CEOs. They are distant relatives by marriage, adding a Shakespearean dimension to an already dramatic rivalry. Industry veterans recount board meetings where the mention of the other company's name provoked a noticeable emotional reaction, despite outward professional restraint. Behind the corporate drama lies a question of great importance. Who will control the fundamental infrastructure of artificial intelligence? This is no longer about video cards or gaming computers. We're talking about technologies that will determine the future of humanity. Every breakthrough in medicine, climate science, economics, and the military will be powered by architectures developed by NVIDIA or AMD. The code executing on these chips will make decisions that affect billions of lives. And now we're on the cusp of the next phase. Artificial intelligence demands ever more power and new architectures. NVIDIA continues to double down on its proprietary CUDA ecosystem, which holds thousands of developers and trillions of lines of code. AMD, on the other hand, favors more open standards, positioning itself as an alternative that wouldn't hold customers hostage. Both companies are rumored to be working on quantum computing initiatives so secretive that employees go through multiple checkpoints to get into the labs. The race has moved beyond traditional silicon because both Huang and Su realize whoever defies the post-GPU era of computing will dominate the next 20 years. The conflict between these companies is not just a business competition, it's a battle for technological destiny. The silent war between NVIDIA and AMD will determine which vision of computing will prevail, which ethical boundaries will be respected or crossed, and who will ultimately hold sway in our increasingly digital civilization. Every time you open an app, when artificial intelligence generates an image or recommends a product, when autonomous systems make decisions that affect human lives, you experience the direct results of this titanic struggle. A struggle that began with video cards and games, and now encompasses the very future of humanity. That's all for now, dear friends. Give this video a like if you are ready to face the high-tech future. Be sure to subscribe to the channel not to miss new interesting stories of Confrontation, and write in the comments, whose side are you on, NVIDIA